Lega Pauper Colonia is happy to announce that we are now proudly sponsored by Ultimate Guard. Join us at our Wednesday game nights and win some Ultimate Guard accessories.
Hello and welcome everyone to another gameplay voiceover by our Cologne Pauper community. Today I'm joined here with Kevin. We are the duo that you already saw in the video featuring the third round of our Nicholas Cup, where we saw a matchup of Grixis Affinity versus White Weenie. And today we brought the first match that was actually not played in the Nicholas tournament.
Yeah, I think it's the first round of our new season. So we played this season through the spring and summer and starting in winter now, finishing it in the summer with another top 8 and with another spot for the next Paupergeddon in fall. This is the second round of our first tournament here. And very fittingly, we two are playing against each other.
Exactly. And like you said, this is from the first match day of our bi-weekly league we play in our clubhouse. We are still relatively early in the league. So if you feel like coming around, playing some game with us, and actually having a shot at winning a buy for the first round for the next Paupergeddon, feel free to join us playing every Wednesday and every second Wednesday playing a league tournament day. So or every other week we have a fun day. Feel free to come by, join us, play some Pauper. And if you do not live in the area near Cologne, feel free to join us on YouTube with these videos like today, where we play a matchup between the two of us. And let's check out the decks we brought.
Yes, let's start with your deck here. I think you brought the same deck you played a couple of times already, right?
Yeah, this is... I don't think it's the exact same deck I brought a couple of times. It's a relatively standard mono blue tarot list without the Delvers. Why do I not include the Delvers? I actually do think this version is higher in our current meta. Why do I think this? There's a lot of mono blue going around, and I do like having Murmuring Mystic in the main board. If you have a mirror matchup between mono blue terror and mono blue terror, the Murmuring Mystic is a high value engine, gaining you a 1/1 flyer with every single instant and sorcery you cast, and most of the times it's whoever resolves the first Mystic wins the match, and playing the main board is very advantageous. And I like to cut the Delvers because of another deck that is relatively popular, or plenty of other decks that are relatively popular. Basically every deck that includes the Sneaky Snacker. Sneaky Snacker is a natural counterplay against the Delver, having only 2 toughness, and the Sneaky Snacker having 2 power. It just gets blocked way too easily. And this version, I feel, is a little bit more consistent, obtaining more wins against common decks. Apart from that, I think it's relatively standard. I used the flex spots to include 4 Force Spikes. I really like this card because it targets everything, unlike the Spell Pierce that only targets non-creature spells. I tend to catch people off guard with it, even on later turns as well, when people tap out to play something, for example, a Gutter Snipe, or even higher cost cards like Generous Ends. You can catch people off guard, and if you have one in the starting hand, it's almost always a keep, since you completely disrupt the game plan of your opponent.
And that's what you in general want to do with mono blue terror, right? You want to, it's basically a tempo deck. You mill yourself, you play a lot of small instances, slow your opponent until you can play a terror, maybe on turn 3, turn 4, something like that. Or maybe 2 or 3 terrors even, or other snakes, and just hit them with a lot of damage.
Yes.
And your opponent can't really catch up.
Exactly.
Classic tempo deck, and probably one of the best, if not the best deck in the format at the moment.
Yes, I think it might actually be. And there's one more advantage by cutting 4 Delvers and including 2 Murmuring Mystics. I have 2 more sorceries and instants.
Yes.
Which makes having 6 or 7 instants or sorceries in your graveyard a little bit faster again. Having the possibility to play 3 terrors or 2 terrors on turn 3 even more likely. Okay, Kevin, what did you bring for our game day?
Yeah, I stuck to bringing another deck list every other week, and I choose, because I never played it not the normal Black-Green Gardens list, but a version with Cauldron Familiar and Pestilence. So in general, the Black-Green Gardens list is mostly black, playing the Call Me Garden to have another creature to sack. But in general, it's basically a control deck. You get a lot of value by those draw to sacrifice an artifact or creature, have a lot of removal and answers to whatever your opponent is doing, and just win really long, grindy matches. I never really liked that, but then there was very recently a list coming up with playing at least 3 Pestilence, which is an enchantment, a black enchantment for 2 and 2 black, where you can pay a black and deal 1 damage to each creature and each opponent. That sounds really strong, and it is, but it has the backdraw that you need to sacrifice it at the beginning of your end step if there are no creatures in play. And the way you get around this is with Cauldron Familiar, which is a 1 mana black 1/1 creature, which drains for 1 when it enters a battlefield, and you can bring it back from your graveyard by sacrificing a food token. And for that, I play 4 Lambuses, who the deck always played, but now also like 4 nutrition blocks, and I also brought 2 Heap Harvest, which is a more expensive food, which lets you search for land. But yeah, in general, I like this because this deck is faster than the normal Black Garden deck. And it is also, I have to say, facing a way better matchup against Mono Blue Terror. In general, I'd say the normal Black Gardens list is 50-50 against Black Terror. This one, because you have those pesky little Cauldron Familiars who can block the big terrors, it's more of a 60-70% win rate for the Black Gardens list here.
And to be honest, when I went into this match, I haven't seen this list before, and I didn't know what the fuck I was playing against. Kevin, is the Pestilence the only game plan you have to win, or are there other win conditions in this deck?
It basically is, right? I mean, I can beat you down with Cauldron's Familiars, but this will take some time. But more often than not, you also cast the Troll of Khazad-dûm to deal damage and not only to look for a swamp.
Yeah. The Troll of Khazad-dûm tends to be a very powerful creature. I think, as we saw in another video of ours already, yes, where we saw you playing against an Entomb version of it. However, at least this list does not allow to have the Troll in play on turn 2. If you want to see the Troll on turn 2, check out the video where we played White Weenie versus
Stretch.
Versus Stretch.
And my opponent managed to do it 3 times to have a turn 2 Troll. Yeah. Very interesting match, but yeah, I definitely won't be able to have the Troll on turn 2 here, but later on this can come in handy to finish off the opponent.
Okay, then I would say let's jump right into the first match, where we faced off each other. Keep in mind, I didn't know what the fuck I was playing. I did have to mulligan down to 6, me being on the left side with the terror list in the blue sleeves, and you were on the right side with the black sleeves, and you had a relatively nice start, having the garden, spawning you the plant, and shipped the turn again. I played a mental note at the end of my turn, played a land, and passed the turn with 2 blue mana, not being suspicious at all.
No. I cycled the Troll to get another land. If I remember correctly, I was pretty low on land count. I searched it, also tapped it for a nutrition block. That's a food, basically. If it comes into play, it does nothing, is indestructible. But when it goes to the graveyard, I draw a card, and it can, as for every food, I can pay 2 and sacrifice it to gain 3 life.
I didn't deem it too dangerous in this turn, so I didn't choose to counter it, leaving my 2 mana unspent for that turn, which is always something you actually don't really want to do. Played a land on turn 3, didn't have a play again, and shipped the turn again back to you. And you had...
Spring.
It's a powerful card, you always want to have it, and this one was a target I gladly used to spend my mana to cast a counterspell.
Yeah, and I'm still stuck on 2 lands there, and I saw in your hand you had like 3 terrors, I think. And Yeah, we managed to do this a lot. Hitting over the camera.
If you didn't know, Cologne is a region that's relatively prone to earthquakes. So
exactly, that's what happened.
Yeah,
it was not us hitting the camera stand.
I spent my turn to shuffle away your nutrient block because I didn't have anything else to do. As you already said, I had a handful of snakes and wanted to be able to cast them. I needed to get instants and sorceries in my graveyard. Therefore, I shuffled away your nutrient block. You simply followed it up by playing another
nutrient block and a Lambus. I found another land. That's good. But we are still both stuck on 3 lands, I think, right?
Yes, exactly. And I didn't manage to find any mill spells to make my snakes cheaper. Therefore, I simply shipped my turn again back to you. You cycled another Troll of Khazad-dûm and therefore found your 4th land. And at this point in the game, what are you searching for in your deck?
I just noticed at that point that I've tapped the wrong mana because I had that Heap Harvest in hand, which I wanted to follow up with. But I tapped my green mana. That was not so good. That's why I at first didn't shuffle, because I thought, okay, I'd search my deck for another land. But then noticed I can't because I tapped my green mana. But yeah, I mean, I think the longer the game goes, it's good for me. So I'm not too afraid you not having any creatures on board. Because you are the tempo deck, I'm more of the control deck. So I'm fine with this. I think I have a draw 2 sec card in hand. But yeah, you also draw your 4th land. Just notice we need some time, some life putting that up.
Yeah, that speaks a lot. Us being in turn 5 or 6. we have not realized that we do not have a life total. But at this point, I finally had enough stuff in my graveyard. Not even enough to play terrors for 1 mana, but for 2. And I managed to spend my 4 available mana to play 2 terrors, and at this point I felt relatively good, feeling like I'm in the driver's seat.
This was also an opportunity for me because you tapped out, and I'm free to go. I in your turn I started off with sacking the Lambus and drawing 2 cards. That's always a spell you don't want to get countered, so I'm happy seeing you tapped out there. Draw 2 cards, create a map token, and then I think I go into my turn and having the opportunity to freely play my spells there. And I think I also have the possibility now to get a namesake card here resolved. The Pestilence in play now.
Yeah.
This is scary for you as well, and this is where my deck is built around.
Yes, and as you can see, I didn't even know what that card does. I had to read it thoroughly, and at this point I knew I fucked up.
And I also play the Cauldron Familiar, so next turn I could, with another black mana, blow up all the creatures and bring back my Familiar by sacrificing the nutrition block and keeping my Pestilence in play.
Yeah. I still felt like I could or might have a chance. Started swimming for 10. And I think here we can see what is actually really powerful in this deck. You simply block with the Familiar and it goes to the graveyard. However, it can come back basically every single turn. And with every enter the battlefield, it drains me for 1, which is not that bad for me, but it gains you valuable life points.
Yeah, definitely. This just shows why this version of the Black Gardens deck is so much more favored against Mono Blue Terror. And now I finally managed to play the Heap Harvest, which is also, if you have time enough, a pretty strong food, which lets you search your library for land and play it put it into play tapped. And I can do that again by sacrificing this. And I can sacrifice it to bring back the Cauldron Familiar.
Yeah, I forced him to tap 2 additional mana with my Spell Pierce since Kevin had access to 5 lands at least. and I wanted to get it in my graveyard to be able to cast my snakes a little bit cheaper, and there you can see the mechanic in the deck. I swing with 2 terrors, and in response, Kevin can simply return the Cauldron Familiar, draining me for 1. He even sacked the Heaped Harvest, gaining additional value by searching his deck for another land, and only 1 terror gets to deal damage to you, and with the 1 damage or 1 drain you had with the Cauldron Familiar, I only managed to swing by for 4 damage, somewhat equaling our life totals. But at this point, I do not feel like I'm in charge at all, and I have to simply pass the turn.
I definitely have to say, I felt most of the time, in this game at least, I felt in control most of the time. I can definitely recommend, if you have no problem with playing really grindy matchups and facing a lot of mono blue terror in your local game store, this is a good deck to bring.
Yeah. Here we see Kevin activating the Pestilence, something I really dreaded since it was laying on the battlefield. You can spend as much black mana as you have or as you want, and Pestilence deals that much damage to everything in play, including the players.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, that's the main way you win, right? You get a lot of life by Cauldron Familiar and the foods and so on, and then you just, at some point when you have more life than your opponent, just activate the Pestilence a few times.
Yes. And you have to return the Cauldron Familiar, because otherwise you would have had to sacrifice the Pestilence.
Yes, and there you see you had a counterspell there, but it's an activated ability and not casting a spell. That's also pretty resilient against blue being always able to bring back the Familiar.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, Stifle is not allowed in Pauper. So
that would change a lot.
Yeah, that would change definitely. That would definitely change a lot. But at this point in time, there is no counterplay to that.
No, I think there's this crap which you can discard to counter target spell or ability. But that's rarely played. But yeah.
Yeah, it would probably be way too niche and not valuable at all. And even with me finding another snake and being able to put it on board for basically free, I still do not really see a way how to get out of this situation and around this Pestilence, because it can just nuke my snakes without even paying the ward cost, and in the same time nuking my face, taking my life total down to 0. And you didn't even have to do it since you had the cast down and were easily able to pay the ward cost. I tried to avoid it by playing a mental note to draw an additional card, but I did not manage to find a counterspell. So I just had to have it happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I did that correct all the time, but you definitely need to look out. Am I already able to kill you with like 1 activation at the end of the turn and then another activation at the start of my turn? I came to the conclusion there that I'm not there yet, because my life total was lower, but I'm not sure though, because I would have cracked the Lambus. Not sure, but that's a counting you need to do there.
Yeah, and you even managed to find a Bojuka Bog, exiling my graveyard. I wasn't able to play snakes anymore. However, I played a Murmuring Mystic, and you tried to cast it down, and there you can see that you can get caught off guard by a Force Spike in a really late stage of the game.
Yeah, you don't think about that at that point, right? I should have just waited until my turn.
Yeah, and it even gave me the opportunity to spawn one of the Illusion Birds with this really nice token designed by one of our fellow playmates, Jonas. Shout out to him. He has plenty of tokens in play. Jonas Berger, feel free to check him out on Instagram.
Yes. Not too scared of the 1/1 tokens with the Pestilence in play, I have to say. But yeah, still there. I'm not sure if I counted correctly when I'm able to kill you, but I activate the Pestilence for 5 here, making sure to get rid of the Murmuring Mystic as well.
Yeah. The main reason I stayed back in this game was to see what your deck does, or what your deck might bring to the table in later turns, for me to make the correct sideboard decisions. because I still didn't know the entire game plan, wasn't too sure. Is Pestilence the only engine you want to activate to win the game? I wanted to see as many cards as possible, since I was relatively sure we would not be going into turns. And I was already making up my mind for game 2.
That's a good way to do it, right? If you don't know the deck. And but here, once again, you see the engine, right? I blast the board with the Pestilence, or kill the board with the Pestilence, unable to shuffle here, but then bring back the Cauldron Familiar before my end of turn. So the Pestilence stays on board.
Like I said, I was already making my mind up what might be beneficial to sideboard in. You play this matchup, Kevin, as the Pestilence player. What is the way you lose the game against Blue Tarot?
As you lose every game against Blue Tarot, just being too slow, right? It's a tempo game. If they come strong out of the gates, counter your first spells, you are just too slow. So there are definitely games where I don't have one of the 3 Cauldron Familiars to block with. You counter my Pestilence, whatever, and then I'm just on my back foot and can't get back. But, I mean, we are in turn 15 or something. At that point, most likely I'm not going to lose the match.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm on 6 life. You have more than enough swamps to activate the Pestilence, and I think this is what you currently do. And a joke, playing a counterspell, but as for the Cauldron Familiar, counterspell is not valid to counter activated abilities. So
we need Stifle.
We need Stifle and Pauper. Yes.
More good cards for the Mono Blue Terror deck.
Yes, it's not strong enough. We need more. We need more possibilities. So, like I said, I was already making my mind on what to sideboard. I was relatively sure that I would cut the Murmuring Mystics, since Bird's Mystic as well get nuked by the Pestilence, and it's way too late. Like you said, I need to be fast to win the matchup. I was cutting the Murmuring Mystics. And what did I bring in? I brought in Steel Sabotage and Annal, because I knew that Steel Sabotage doesn't hit Pestilence, however Annal does hit Pestilence. And if I was able to avoid the Pestilence, both cards actually manage to counter your food artifacts as well, which are essential for your gameplay.
Yes, definitely a good part. I would say this is one of the matches where the Delver version might be superior.
Yes,
I think.
Yes,
because it's just a bit faster, right, and not that easily blockable by my pesky cat. But yeah, completely agree with your sideboarding.
And I do remember looking in your face, watching you consider what you might actually be sideboarding. And if we take a joint look at your sideboard, I think I do recall correctly that you didn't change shit, right?
I was really thinking about it. So of course I have Weather the Storm. I don't really need this. I have Moment's Peace, which are nice, but what should I bring out for those? I think I ended up bringing in the sacrifice effects. I think I brought in Extract the Confession and Tithing Blade. Not sure, though. Maybe I didn't find anything that I should brought out and kept in everything. But I think I brought out the one Heritage Reclamation and brought one of the sac effects in. That's everything.
Yeah. I think there's no obvious choice. Like in my case, you can have
It's already good in the main board, so
yes.
That's why I went with. But let's see how the second match went, and if that confirms the one-sided matchup here. I went down to 6, I think, and
I kept 7.
Yes.
Started with an island, shipped the turn, and wanted to see what you bring. This time you start with a swamp, not with a garden, and do I recall correctly that you managed to, that you dropped the spell bomb immediately on turn 1?
Yes, that's also a pretty good card also in the main board, right? To at some point even slow you down and negating your play of terrors in the first couple of turns.
Yeah, playing a Neo spell bomb on turn 1 puts you between a rock and a hard place. On the one hand, you want to play the spells to go through your deck and to make the snakes cheaper, but on the other hand, you know that once I accumulate 3 to 4 spells in my graveyard, you can be sure that your graveyard is going to be gone for good. And I needed to find an answer to this play because, like we already discussed, I knew I have to be fast, I have to be quick, I need my graveyard. And I didn't have Steel Sabotage or Null in my starting hand, and obviously no Force Spike, so I had to let this Spellbomb resolve and find a way to play around it. I cycled one Lorien Revealed to make sure to have my land drop, and then I simply passed the turn.
Yeah, and I also had the Cauldron Familiar, which is also, as we already discussed, quite nice in the matchup, draining you for 1 and having a blocker against your terrors. And played a tapped land there, having still a garden in hand.
And it's proof against counterspell because once it's in your graveyard, it's still as valuable as it being in your hand, or almost. So countering a Cauldron Familiar does not make any sense. Therefore, again, I had to leave my 2 blue mana unspent in my second turn, and luckily found a land for the third turn and shipped the turn back to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's also pretty resilient against Graveyard Hate, the Cauldron Familiar, but for that you should only play it once you have a food in play. So you can respond by, if they want to sack your graveyard or exile your graveyard, you can always, in response, get it back. But I wasn't afraid of that, because Mono Blue Tarot doesn't exile graveyards.
Yes. Luckily, your turn was not that valuable, at least in your main phases as well. You only lay down a Colony Garden, creating a plant, and here you can see what I came up with. I still had the threat of the Nihil Spellbomb being on board, which is why I didn't play too many spells, and I choose to cast Deem Inferior for a cost of 3, which is way more expensive than I usually play it, but I was able to remove the Spellbomb, and Kevin obviously put it second from top instead of bottom of his library, but I knew it would take 2 turns at least for him to draw it.
Yeah, I was thinking about cracking it at that point, but you only had the Lorien Revealed in your graveyard, so...
Yeah, then you try to redraw it with an Eviscerator's Insight, but I had a pretty good setup with the Dispel in hand. I just realized I bought it in to counter your draw spells, and therefore you weren't able to draw the Nihil Spellbomb right away. This turn you redrew it, and I was sure that he's gonna play it again. And then we see it, and I had the perfect answer in the counter spell to counter it. And at this point, I felt relatively comfortable sitting at 5 lands, Kevin only at 3, having avoided or somewhat removed the Nihil Spellbomb. I knew this is my shot. If I want to win the game, I have to start now.
And I'm still stuck on 3 lands. And you are at 6 lands, so we are probably in turn 6.
Yeah.
That also really hurts.
And here you can see I only had 4 spells in graveyard yet, but me having 6 lands, I was able to play 2 terrors again. And finally you managed to find not a land directly, but a heaped harvest to gain an additional land. But it's still a relatively slow turn.
Yeah, I could have played that last turn, but I thought the Spellbomb would be better, which got countered. So, I pass already. You attack with both. I block 1. And I think also bring it back directly. You draw.
Yeah.
3.
I actually hardcast Lorien, which is something I do not regularly do. But having access to the mana and having stalled the game that much, I had the time to do it. Drew a land, drew another snake, and at this point I already had lethal attackers on board, but you obviously unborrowed the Cauldron Familiar, gaining you additional value by sacrificing Heaped Harvest. And in a blink of an eye, you already have access to 5 lands already.
Yes, but the board is still looking pretty grim for me. I need to do something. That's a 2-turn clock there. I remember my hand not being too good. I'm not sure if I ever had a Pestilence in hand. I would have played it this turn if I had.
Yeah, you can be sure that I started sweating, seeing you at 5 lands, knowing that you can play Pestilence again, and I think I saw one, being the top card, and here we see you trying to cast it.
And you are tapped out, right?
I was tapped out. Yeah. I played Lorien Revealed for 5 and a Cryptic Serpent for 2. Therefore, you were safe to play it. And you even followed it up with a Campfire that gains you small amounts of life, but
every life counts.
Yeah, especially in this matchup.
Yeah,
every life counts. And I untap with still lethal attackers.
Well, I have one blocker, so I can survive one turn.
And it's not even lethal. It's 60 damage. Yeah. You had the Cauldron Familiar. Yeah, that wasn't even lethal.
Yeah, so I survived one. I can survive one turn, but only one turn. You played Mental Note, and if I remember correctly, play another Lorien Reveal, drawing another 3 cards. I mean, this is just you having way more lands in play is so valuable there, right? And then play the Demon Fear for 1, putting away my Pestilence.
Yeah.
And this really doesn't look too good for me.
Yeah, this was a very lucky draw. I knew that I could remove it, and with this board, I was already considering if I'm gonna be able to finish the match before you even redrawing the Pestilence. And as you can see, my plan was going relatively well. Obviously, you blocked the 6 power attacker, and I got through with 2 terrors, dealing 10 damage to you.
Yeah. My hand wasn't looking too good. I think I had a Comic Garden. I had, I think, another Campfire. Yeah, let's see what I do here. Because I have 16 damage on board. I'm at 7 life. I definitely need to do something.
Yeah, you do have the Campfire. However, Campfire only has 1 activation per turn, and it only gives you 2 life. But luckily for you, you find a cast down targeting the Cryptic Serpent, don't have to play the ward, and you find an additional Heaped Harvest.
Yeah, I think that was a Campfire I thought I had in hand, but it's a Heap Harvest. That's especially good because it gives me another land, but also makes me able to bring back the Cauldron Familiar as a blocker.
Yeah, because as you can see on the board, even with the Cryptic Serpent having been cast down, I still have lethal attackers, so I know Kevin has to sacrifice his Heaped Harvest, return the Cauldron Familiar, basically activate his engine again. So I try to find any counterplay for his additional turns, managed to hardcast the Lorien Revealed again.
The 3rd turn in a row.
3rd turn in a row. Maintaining my card advantage.
Yeah.
And here we can see the obvious attack. I swing with both creatures, you return the Familiar. And take 5, drain for 1, taking you down to 3 life, I guess.
3 life. Still facing two snakes there.
And what we should mention as well, since I removed the Pestilence with Demon Fury, you had to shuffle it in your deck. And as soon as you played the Heaped Harvest, which was a forced play, I guess, otherwise you would have lost the game, you, in the same turn, lost the chance to redraw the Pestilence in your next turn.
Yeah, sad to say, but I needed to do it there. And I'm still facing lethal here, so I need to think about something to do.
Yes, even returning the Cauldron Familiar just barely has you survive, since both creatures would have been lethal attackers, and even with the activation of the Campfire, it might have been enough. But you do manage to find Fawn of the Black Rose, making you the Monarch, and having a really powerful Death Touch creature in play. Obviously, I want to avoid facing this creature, so I play Brainstorm to fetch for any counterspell. Don't find anything. Cast a Thought Scour to avoid it, and I do find a counterspell. However, this time it's a Force Spike again, which does not answer it completely and entirely, since you have 3 untapped mana.
Yeah, and I have to say, this is a card that Blackguards normally doesn't play, but this being our first match after the top 8, where I won this really nice wood monarch token. I had to put it in the deck just to be able to play with the token.
And flex on the others that you won the...
Exactly.
That you won the Ember season. If you want to have a chance of winning something like that, join us in our recently started Verdant season, which is playing in the next couple of weeks. Join us every other Wednesday to obtain league points and join our conquest to the throne to retake it from Kevin.
Yeah, and I'm not spoiling too much if I say that we are now also sponsored for every match day with Ultimate Guard, who send us a couple of nice things. So every match day we play about some sleeves of deck boxes. So that's also a result of our YouTube channel already.
Yes.
Pretty nice.
At this point, obviously, huge shout out to all our sponsors. We will have another video where we can probably show the prizes that we were able to hand out at the Nicholas tournament. And
Yeah, now you attack with both. Of course, block 1, trade 1, get another life with the campfire, and are back to 5 life, which still would be lethal, but I have the campfire. So I think this is where I start turning the match, I'd say.
Yeah, and I remember that I started to grow a little bit impatient since every single attack of mine felt like I'm close to winning. And as you can see, Kevin managed to survive. And I started to count how many snakes I even would have left in my graveyard. And I think, if I do recall correctly, I had lost only 3. With the 4th terror on board, I still had 4 snakes in my library. And so I was waiting for the draws. You tried to take my last piece of creature on board, but luckily I had a dispel to immediately counter it.
I mean, that's a point with taking out your 2 Murmuring Mystics. It only leaves you with like 8 threats on board, right? Yes. You only have the 8 snakes. Still think that was the right decision, right? Because, as we said in the beginning, when you come to this point where it's again turn 10, 12, 15, whatever, you are not favored anymore. So it doesn't really matter.
They would have actually loved the Murmuring Mystic because I wasn't able to get through. But what we do see is that the campfire managed to save your life. You survived the next attack with 2 life that were brought by the campfire. However, I managed to obtain the monarch status, including the beautiful token, drawing me each and every single turn additional cards because you do not have that many creatures that would be about to attack me.
Yes, and I think you finally draw some other snakes, if I saw correctly.
Yeah, I think at this point, I tried to spell pierce. What did you play that I wanted to spell pierce?
The Lembas, I think.
Yeah. I wanted to keep your board or refrain you from being able to play artifacts. So I emptied my hand with a spell pierce at first. You managed to pay it. I answered with a force spike. You managed to pay it. Then I answered with another spell pierce, you managed to pay it, and then I let it resolve. What was the point of me doing that? I wanted you to not be able to cast Pestilence.
Yeah, and also I exiled your graveyard with the Bazooka Bock turn earlier, so you probably needed some other spells in the graveyard to play the 2 terrors you drew that turn, right?
Yes, exactly.
And I think I also had a troll in hand, so you making me pay all this prevented me from playing the troll.
Yeah. At the point where I played all my counterspells to refill my graveyard and have you spend the mana, I felt somewhat smart, but looking at what you redrew with the Ica Wellspring, I see that it was getting tougher and tougher with everyone to win this match, especially since the Colonia Garden essentially bought you another round of survival.
That's also, I never noticed this, but it's also a quite good card against the Mono Blue Tarot. Yeah. But more often than not, if I play different decks, you just counter the blocker I'm trying to play to stay alive, but this one you can't counter.
Yeah. make Stifle Pauper legal. And since I was able to refill my graveyard, I managed to play 2 additional snakes, having 3 lethal attackers. But you just went back to your engine, played the Akka Wellspring to go through your deck and find the value pieces you need. And on top of playing the Wellspring, you tried to kill one of my snakes again. And at this point, I did not have any counter spells anymore. Especially having Spell Pierce or Force Spike at hand would have not done anything since, you had all the mana in the world.
Yeah, and at this point, or at this state of the game, you had another Force Spike.
I had another Force Spike, which I decided to play because this left you with only 3 mana, or at this point, after playing another Force Spike, only 2 mana, making it impossible for you again to play Pestilence, which was the major threat I was afraid of. And with every single turn you did not play it, I had another chance of winning the match.
I'm not sure if I forgot. I still should have a Cauldron Familiar in my graveyard, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I forgot about that. A lot of things to keep track. But yeah, I mean, still facing lethal. There I remember that I still had one. Sacking one of my 2 boots. Choose the Lambas because my deck was pretty thin already, right? So redrawing a Lambas is pretty good draw for me there.
Yeah, and you chose to activate the Campfire again, taking you back to 7 life. And naturally, you blocked one of the terrors with a just respawned Cauldron Familiar, letting through 5 damage, taking you back down to 2 again. So as we can see, Campfire plays out to be an MVP in this match.
It definitely was. I would have been that multiple times without it. And then at the end of the turn, I'll bring back the Familiar by sacking the Nutrition block, drawing a card, and it actually was a Lambas I just shuffled in. Or another one, but definitely drawing a Lambas there is good because it can bring back my Cauldron Familiar, and if it gets urgent, I can also crack it for 3 life. I think I have 3 of them in hand now.
Yeah, you have plenty of cards in hand, plenty of mana available. I really needed a miracle at this point. You even asked me how many cards I had in hand. So I feel like you were starting to feel in the driver's seat, right?
Absolutely. I was thinking about playing a troll. And
I think you actually do, right? Yeah.
I do.
You hardcast a Troll of Khazad-dûm. With me having only 2 creatures on board, I wasn't even able to block it. And I chose to card the Force Spike again to at least avoid another Pestilence. But the Troll of Khazad-dûm turned out to be a 2-turn clock. And you even decided to crack the map token onto the Troll to have it have 6 toughness, which is a very smart play in my opinion, because at this point, if I found any additional creature, it would have definitely died to 1 terror or 5 damage, and with making it 6 toughness, it has way more survivability and packs somewhat of a larger punch, but this is not the relevant part.
Yeah, it just always comes down to drawing a Demon Fury here would be good. So this probably is the best card in this matchup here. But you already played 2 or 3, I think, right?
I think I played 1 on the Nihil Spellbomb, 1 on the Pestilence.
Yes.
So I should have 1 more in my deck. And I'm digging for basically anything that might help me win this match. And I think we were already discussing whether I had any shot in this game left. Because you were just being able to gain plenty of life with the Lambas and the Campfire. I still only had my attackers and the Tolarian Terrors, which were not able to attack anymore since your Troll had 6 toughness. through the map token.
Yeah. I'm still at 5 life. That's 1 terror attack. So I still need to calculate on how. I'm basically looking at how I'm losing this game at this point, right?
Yeah. You tried to cast another Troll of Khazad-dûm, which would have been a death sentence. Luckily, I had found another counterspell to have somewhat of a chance at survival left in the game. But with the board state as is, it was still looking very dire.
Yeah, and then I think at this point I'm taking way too long to think about how I'm gonna lose this game. Also checked your library and you had something like 8 or 9 cards left in there. If that's my best out or if I should start attacking. The question I was asking myself is, if I attack here, how do I lose? But I think in the end, when I finally made up my mind, I attacked this turn.
Yeah.
Putting you on a 2-turn clock.
Yeah. Like we already discussed, the Troll of Khazad-dûm has this super menace, demanding 3 creatures to block it, and since I only had 2 snakes, I wasn't able to avoid taking 7 damage straight to face. Which turned your next turn into a lethal attack, and you managed to retake the Monarch token. And yeah, I knew that I had to find something valuable, and I did not find anything immediately. Used a mental note to dig further, found another mental note, or milled another mental note, and
I think you draw a counter spell, but that's not helping with the current board state.
Yeah. I tried to catch you off guard with attacking for 5, but I basically knew that the game was over, and I wanted to see you finish it. You just restarted the engine of blocking with the Cauldron Familiar, and I don't know if you even returned it immediately, but at this point I knew that the game was over. Here you can see my hand. I had an island left, an Annul.
Annul to
counter the Pestilence.
The Pestilence, and it was not coming up again.
Yeah, and I had a counterspell in hand, which is always a nice card, but not at this game state, since you had everything you needed to have on the board. And at this point the game was already over. Kevin, what do you say? What would I have needed to do differently to win this game?
As we said before, if the game goes really late, the Mono Blue Gyro is not favored anymore. I think you did everything right. You didn't hit the too explosive start. Also, me denying that with a Nile Spellbomb and so on made it really hard for you to come out of the gates super quickly. And then you saw like 2 matches where in the end the Black Gardens deck is favored.
Yeah, I think so too. If you're playing this matchup, look for hands where you can drop terrors on turn 3, or at least on turn 4, and try to overpower your opponent in the early turns, because I think if it goes to turn 8, 9, 10, it's almost impossible to win against a Golgari deck like this.
Yeah, I think that's it. And this was our second round of our first leg here.
Like we already discussed, if you want to join us playing, feel free to check out the links in the description. We meet every Wednesday in our clubhouse in Cologne. We're always happy to see new players, new faces. And if you feel like checking it out, join us on Wednesdays or shoot us a message. And thank you guys very much for watching our videos. Check out the other ones, and we wish you a pleasant day.
Bye-bye.